The courtroom in Riverside County was silent as Jake Haro stood before the judge on Monday, November 3rd. The 29-year-old father from California had finally admitted to one of the most haunting crimes in recent memory, the murder of his 7-month-old son, Emmanuel Haro. The sentencing was swift. Jake pleaded guilty to murder, filing a false police report, and child endangerment. The judge accepted the prosecution's recommendation: 25 years to life for the murder, plus additional time for the other offenses. In total, Jake Haro will spend at least 3 decades behind bars. It was a heartbreaking conclusion to a case that had already left an entire community in shock. The story began months earlier when Jake and his wife, Rebecca, reported that their baby had been kidnapped outside a sporting goods store in Yucaipa, California. The claim immediately triggered an Amber Alert and a statewide search. Rebecca told authorities she had been attacked by an unknown man who spoke to her in Spanish before everything went black. When she regained consciousness, baby Emmanuel was gone. Her emotional retelling, paired with the bruises and a swollen black eye she displayed, made headlines across the state. To many, she looked like the picture of a devastated mother. Quote, "Someone said hola and I couldn't even turn," she told reporters, holding back tears. "Then I don't remember anything. When I woke up, he was gone." But within days, cracks began to form in Rebecca's story. Detectives noticed inconsistencies in her timeline, missing details about her supposed attacker, and contradictions between her statements and evidence at the scene. Her husband, Jake, who initially stood by her side, became increasingly distant. Eventually, both parents stopped cooperating with law enforcement altogether. That was when investigators began to suspect something much darker had happened to baby Emmanuel. As the days turned into weeks, investigators with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department grew convinced that baby Emmanuel had not been kidnapped at all. Detectives poured hundreds of hours into retracing every step of the Haro story: surveillance footage, witness statements, and phone records. But none of it supported Rebecca's version of events. No witnesses had seen a struggle, no security cameras had captured any suspicious figures, and the timeline she provided simply didn't make sense. On August 22nd, the Sheriff's Department issued a chilling public update. Quote, "It has been determined that a kidnapping in Yucaipa did not occur. It is believed Emmanuel is deceased and the search to recover his remains is ongoing." The entire community went silent. The hope that the infant might still be alive evaporated overnight. 2 days later, on August 24th, both Jake and Rebecca were arrested and charged with murder. The couple was booked into custody and held without bail. That same day, investigators revealed that Jake had briefly left jail under heavy supervision to assist in the search for his son's remains. But the results were grim. Emmanuel's body was never found. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered something even more disturbing. According to a criminal complaint obtained by People, Emmanuel had likely been dead for days before Rebecca's alleged kidnapping report. The last confirmed sighting of the infant was on August 5th, more than a week before her mother called police to report the supposed abduction. That revelation turned the case from a missing persons mystery into a horrifying tale of deception and death. Rebecca continued to maintain her innocence, appearing in court with her face pale and expression blank. She pleaded not guilty to murder and to filing a false police report. Jake, however, broke under the weight of evidence and guilt. In October, he suddenly decided to change his plea to guilty, but refused to tell investigators where his son's body was. When prosecutors began to review Jake Haro's criminal past, a disturbing pattern of violence emerged, one that suggested baby Emmanuel's death may have been inevitable. Just 2 years earlier, Jake had pleaded guilty in a separate case involving the willful neglect and abuse of another of his children, a 10-week-old baby girl. That incident, which occurred back in 2018, had left the infant with catastrophic injuries. According to prosecutors, the baby had been beaten so severely that she suffered brain damage and was later diagnosed with cerebral palsy. She would never walk, talk, or live a normal life. In court, officials described her as permanently bedridden, a victim of unimaginable cruelty at the hands of her own father. Despite the gravity of the case, Jake managed to avoid a lengthy prison sentence at the time, a decision that many now see as a devastating failure of the justice system. When baby Emmanuel was born years later, neighbors described the Haros as struggling, but trying to rebuild. They appeared quiet, withdrawn, and rarely interacted with others. No one in the community could have guessed the horror that was quietly unfolding behind closed doors. Authorities now believe Emmanuel was killed in the days before Rebecca filed her false kidnapping report, possibly as a result of ongoing abuse or neglect. What triggered the final act of violence remains unclear. Jake has never spoken publicly about what happened, and investigators say he has refused to cooperate since entering his guilty plea. Meanwhile, Rebecca Haro's legal battle continues. Still held on $1 million bail, she faces charges of murder and filing a false police report. Her next court date is scheduled for November 3rd, where a judge will determine if there is enough evidence to move forward with a full trial. Prosecutors say she remains under investigation for her possible role in covering up the crime or even helping to conceal Emmanuel's body. The Haro's surviving 2-year-old child has been placed in protective custody and removed from their care. For the little girl Jake abused in 2018, life is now confined to a hospital bed. She cannot walk or speak, silent proof of the violence that marked this family for years. Authorities and volunteers who once searched tirelessly for baby Emmanuel still hope one day his remains will be found, giving the child a proper burial and the community a measure of closure. Until then, the story remains a haunting reminder of how evil can hide behind the image of a loving family. The tragic case of baby Emmanuel Haro has left deep scars on everyone who followed it, a chilling story of lies, violence, and betrayal that no parent should ever be capable of. What began as a desperate plea from a mother claiming her baby had been kidnapped ended in the unthinkable truth: the people responsible for his disappearance were his own parents. For the residents of Yucaipa, the town where this nightmare unfolded, the story serves as a painful lesson about the hidden darkness that can exist behind closed doors. Neighbors who once offered sympathy and prayers now struggle with disbelief. Many still light candles at the parking lot where Rebecca claimed her son was taken, a place now marked not by hope, but by sorrow. Jake Haro's confession brought an end to months of speculation, but not to the pain. His refusal to reveal where he hid his son's body leaves a haunting question that may never be answered. Rebecca's continued fight to prove her innocence has only deepened the mystery and angered many who demand accountability. Today, the search for Emmanuel's remains continues quietly, with volunteers and detectives determined not to give up. They say the child deserves to be found, no matter how much time passes. And as Jake begins his long sentence, the image of his baby boy, forever missing, forever silent, will remain the one thing he can never escape. In the end, justice may have spoken, but peace remains out of reach. A life so small, yet a story so heavy. A story America will never forget.